IVM.
All right, welcome to Shunya 1, episode 30. We have a great show lined up for you here today. We have a very interesting entrepreneur, Nameet, who's going to share how he's been an entrepreneur starting from a restaurant all the way to building SaaS products. We talk about some interesting stuff about selling on Facebook and the rise of the e-commerce and subscription commerce market in India. But before that, Amit, how's it going?
I'm good, man.
What's happening on our Slack channel?
We got quite a little bit of activity going right now. So Ankur had a very interesting question. He wanted to ask what is better, Google Assistant or Alexa for India? And so I replied to him saying that I think Alexa has a better product right now, but I think Google has better long-term prospects. But Ankur eventually decided to reply saying that he got a bunch of replies on Twitter and he eventually ordered them both. So that's good.
That's
one way to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting is we got a comment from Pinaki. Just want to say I'm a big fan of Shunya 1, have been listening to most of your broadcasts since initial days, and as usual, it's been awesome. Thank you, Pinaki. I've learned a ton. Keep up the good work. P.S. My post on how to make a podcast was clearly a bad idea. Yes, Pinaki, that was a bad idea, but that's okay. We all have bad ideas. We can move on from those.
Nice. All right. And hi to all the new Slack channel members.
Yes, please. More people come. We want more of you on here.
Yeah, let's jump into the show. All right. So today we have Nameet Potnis, the co-founder and CEO at Aptus.
Hi.
So it's Aptus is an omni-channel commerce platform which enables businesses to sell their products across multiple channels from a single system.
You want to explain that?
Wow. That's a whole mouthful of an explanation what Aptus is today. But before we get to that, you've actually done a bunch of things over the years.
Yes.
And you've actually started out, I would say, when you were in college as someone in the radio business.
I was on radio. Yes, that's right. This was very, very, very long ago. I think over a decade ago, 2006. And I believe
now you're back here in a podcasting studio.
Yeah, so I believe it's a
radio 3.0.
I was really excited about doing this because I haven't done any radio shows after that happened, and I was like, this is right up there with a nice soundproof room.
Wow. It's so great to have you here, Nameet. Thanks for doing this. And why don't you tell us what took you from radio show to Aptus today?
Okay, so I was in college. There was an opportunity to work with Go 92.5, which was at that point, I think now it's 94.3. So that was, I think Bombay's only English radio. I had the opportunity to work with Jagu and Tarana on the morning show, which was great. So in the morning, I'd be running around on the outdoor vans, taking bites of people who were around and wanted to ask questions and doing really.
I actually gave a bite once to Jagu.
Oh, did you really?
Outside of Crossroads.
I used to hang around there.
Yeah. It was the only place to hang around in the city.
Is it possible that you took the bite from him?
I was on, because the studio was right there, right? Yeah. So film center was right there. I used to hang around near Sardar Pav-Bhaji and all of those and, take those calls coming in or some funky stuff happening, which was great because I got to learn a lot. I was in college. I also managed to squeeze onto radio. So my voice is there somewhere a few decades, rather a decade ago. Which was really great because I was in college. It was a good opportunity. I got to learn how to do sound mixing, how the studio works, how do you do programming. I think back from then only Kobad, who was the station head,
he still is. He's still there.
Yeah. He still does his programming himself.
He still manages all the programming. He's still he sets the playlist.
He's the man.
Yes, he sets the playlist for the day.
Yeah, and it was the same back then. So if you wanted to get songs onto the list, you had to go through him.
I heard stories about that as well. Hey, Kobad, can you please play this? Can you please play that? Like, no.
Yeah, it was pretty much like that.
Wow.
I'm glad it stayed like that, right? So that's why they've been able to keep their programming content great.
Wow.
So I did that. I also had the opportunity to work with Time Out Mumbai, which was a magazine back then. I used to shoot for them, write for them, which was a great experience. So I did radio, I did a little bit of shooting. I did all of that, finished college, and then I needed to figure out what to do next, which is when I had the opportunity to set up a restaurant.
Wow. That's quite a bit of jumps you're taking.
Yeah.
And we haven't even got to the tech part of things yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, that comes much later. But it was very interesting because I was just out of college. So I believe I was 21. And the restaurant industry was not as simple as it is right now. So you needed about 26 different licenses.
The restaurateurs today would still disagree.
I think they would take issue with the idea of simple.
Yeah, well, so, you needed all those licenses, and you needed to buy stuff, and I was not from this background, and we met. So I had a partner. We went and met. Coincidentally, my partner is someone I've married now. So I opened this restaurant with Radhika, and we went and met quite a few people, tried to kind of put a kitchen together, and they were like, oh, you're a bunch of kids, you need a few crores to kind of set this up, do this, do that. And that's the first time in my life when I did not know what jugaad was. We managed to figure it out. Right, so we went in Crawford Market, I don't know if there's Lohar Chal. We went there, spoke to a few guys. We were like, okay, this is what we need. These are the kind of pizza oven we need. I'm not going to pay a bomb to get this done. How do I get this done? Put all of that together. And we were right next to Blue Frog. We did great. I believe at that point there was Zenzi, which was right there. So the three of us were in the same compound. And we did continental food. We did a very famous cheesy fries burger, which was a boatload of fries with mayo, garlic, a lot of cheese, toasted beautifully between two buns.
Wow.
Okay.
and it did really well. So we would have people who would be like, okay, I'm leaving from office in town. I'll be driving by. Can you get your guy to pack 10 burgers and stand across the road? Because I'll stand outside Kamla Mill in my cab. I'll pick them up on the way. And then I'll drive by. So,
Amazing.
I still have people who call me saying, can we have that burger? I'm like, sure, when we get back to doing this. But it was great. I got to learn a lot of stuff because we were just trying to figure stuff out. I think a couple of months after we opened, we were a completely vegetarian place. So we ended up having a lot of Gujaratis and Jain coming in for parties and stuff. So one of those Raksha Bandhan parties was on a Sunday, and we had a guest who came in track pants, said, I want to eat here today. Mm-hmm. And we were like, we're really sorry. We can't because we're shut for a private event. And she's like, no, the thing is, today is the only day I have to do this. And, I want to do that. So I, kind of popped out. And it was Rashmi Uday Singh.
Oh, okay.
So I went, I spoke to her. I'm like, what do you like to eat? And she's like, possibly one of everything on the menu. And I'm like, okay.
That's why she came in track pants, or like?
No, I think she was, it was an early morning jog, and from there she straight came to eat our sinful burger. So she was there, and the party was on, and that was her first priority, and we completely screwed up her food.
Oh no.
And she got a coffee which was terrible, and she called me and she's like, I just want to let you know that there is a problem with this. I'm like, what, I'm really sorry about this. It's just that she's like, yeah, don't worry about it. So she ended up eating everything. She tipped the staff really well, and then we had a review the next Sunday in the Bombay Times, and surprisingly it was good. Mm-hmm. So it was quite appreciative, and she said, here is a bunch of 21-year-olds who are trying to do this, and if you want to kind of go give it a shot, why don't you do that? And I think that was the first time I figured that things are going to go right, things are going to go wrong, just run through them and figure it out.
That's exactly what the entrepreneur life motto is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So I did that, and then the thing is, if you're in the restaurant business, you realize that it's extremely tiring.
Yeah.
You need to be there all day, at least all day, right? So you're there, very exhausting, very fulfilling. But for those 3 years, I don't remember celebrating any New Year's. I don't remember celebrating birthdays because they were all spent at the restaurant. Very fulfilling work, but was a little exhausted. Mm-hmm. So decided to kind of take a polite exit and moved to Singapore. I did my MBA there, which was nice. Singapore was great. It was a very good change from what...
the chaos of Lower Parel.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus, it was nice. So if you're to reach office at a particular time, you leave at this time, and you're going to reach exactly at that time. Right?
And that itself is a life change.
Yeah, but it's so weird. Right? I go to Singapore, and so I have a couple of cousins over there, and they complain about... It's going to take me 20 minutes to get home instead of 15 minutes. And I just want to hit them when they say that, right? I mean, it's like, what are you complaining about? Instead of 15 minutes, you're going to take 20 minutes and you're complaining about that. Even like the Google Maps thing, right? When on a 4-minute delay, the lines will go red.
Wow.
And I'm just like, how is this a thing for you guys?
Yeah, but, so I know friends who cannot adjust to Singapore because the thing is very sterile.
Right.
I love it. Right, I love it because, of course, I think it's organized chaos, which is great, for the fact that you're going to be on time, which works great. And otherwise, it's just better. So it was great. I did that for a couple of years. And then, as it is with most people who kind of do an MBA, you decide you want to come and go into consulting.
Of course.
So I was very sure.
Usually to just pay for the MBA.
The good part was
I was not done one.
No, but that's very true, right? So I was speaking to somebody a couple of days ago, and they're like, you completed an MBA, you had the opportunity to kind of get into consulting, why would you go and do something on your own? I'm like, of course, I wanted to do something on my own, but I think another very important fact was that, I had financed my MBA myself. I didn't have to come back and pay a loan. And I know a lot of friends who may want to do things, but they need to make sure that they need to repay the loan.
Yeah.
And I think we don't talk about it enough. But paying for an expensive education kind of, you keep paying it back for many, many years.
Yeah.
Even
it
once you're...
slots you into that one direction.
It completely does. So I did that. I came back and I met my co-founders just when I was kind of interviewing with a few consulting agencies. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, maybe it's time to choose, which I did. And that's when I kind of, went ahead and set up SellMojo.
Right.
So, which is something that kind of happened.
Which is what your actual first ever tech venture
Yeah, absolutely.
Was.
Absolutely. So the idea was, so my co-founder was great, right? So he was a great tech guy, and I figured that for him everything was extremely easy. But when I was trying to make something as simple as a website, it would take me a really long time. And I don't have a tech background, right? So I said, there are many, many people like us who are out there. And if we can just create a very simple solution, very basic, and just, provide it to them, I believe there is an opportunity for something like this to happen. This was still early days of the internet taking off in India, 2011, 2012. Mm-hmm. So we believed that the ability to do commerce within Facebook could be a good opportunity.
Okay.
So we set up SellMojo in a way that it was a full-fledged e-commerce store right within Facebook.
Right. And that was like as a widget, I believe.
Yeah, it was like a widget. It would sit on your page. Yeah. Once you clicked on it, it would open up. Everything happened there. You could see your products. You could go ahead, process payments. All of that happened within Facebook, which was great because we had some great clients back then, very good use cases. So we had a furniture brand, who of course I cannot name, but we had a furniture brand on board. And they wanted to start selling these, these back support things you have. Mm-hmm. And it was a very interesting problem for them because they were also selling really good chairs. So they essentially couldn't tell their prospective clients that, buy my chair because it's the best, but also buy this back support that you need to add onto the chair to make it even better.
Right.
So these guys ended up building a nice community on Facebook, which was, I think, a couple of million people. Great engagement. And, I met them and I said, why don't you see if you can just put commerce right there in the middle? Don't force it. Let it just sit there. So you already have people who are engaging with you. If they want to go ahead and buy, can you create that interaction right there within the ecosystem without people leaving Facebook? This is, so over time, any social network has always, tried to see if they can monetize, and that's always been commerce.
Right.
So Facebook has spoken about, we will do native commerce. Twitter has spoken about, we will try to figure out
the
commerce.
buy button. On
the buy button. So, Pinterest has done. Everybody's trying to, figure that out. And this was still early days. So Facebook had said at some point of time, we want to figure out how we can do commerce within the ecosystem, but nothing had been done about it. Or rather, it wasn't available in India or large parts of Asia back then. So we put it out, and it did surprisingly well, right? So we then had large brands approaching us because they were spending a ton of money in creating communities. Because if you believe back then, having a huge Facebook following was still a thing.
Exactly.
Yes,
Your page actually could be surfaced with
and it
organic.
Mattered, right? And a lot of brand managers, I think it was a part of their KPI.
Yeah. Likes. How many likes?
How many likes do you have?
Yeah.
And that was basically the way I mean, that was the only way to get organic reach on
Yeah,
Facebook.
it was a thing, man. I made money doing it. I mean, it was a thing. You had to kind of generate likes for a page. I mean, that was a massive thing in 2012, 13.
I think Facebook in themselves had not started ads, right?
Not yet.
No, I think the ad product had started, but the mobile ad stuff was still
of course, mobile was very later, post-IPO.
I think the web ad stuff started before
Facebook's first iteration of mobile was an HTML-based app.
I remember that.
Yes, horrible HTML. Horribly slow.
HTML5 based and way too early.
Yeah, and then of course, as we know, Mark Zuckerberg later commented about the fact that maybe it was not a smart thing to do.
Right.
But of course, hindsight 2020, right?
Yeah.
It's a logical thing to do. I mean, I think that from a pure logical perspective, having HTML code base, which is your front end, helps, because what you're doing now is, whether it's the app or whether it's the mobile web, either one you can provide a somewhat equivalent experience, right?
Absolutely.
And so, I think it makes sense to do from that perspective, but at the same time, at that point in time, HTML5 just simply wasn't there.
The hardware wasn't there also, I think.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But if you actually think about it, we're now, as of today, we're moving towards that.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Progressive web apps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what
and everybody's doing that. So Google's told us that they believe that is the future. Right, so I think Google Chrome, we're on version 56 now. Version 42 onwards, they pushed out the ability to essentially send push notifications for anybody who had your website open on Chrome.
Yep.
Which essentially means that, that's the future that they kind of perceive. Of course, it is linked to the fact that they want search to happen, right? They don't want businesses to close off.
And right now, it's used really badly. Right now, the only people who I see using notifications are media sites who want to send you headlines.
Yeah.
I don't see anybody using those notifications well right now.
Yeah, that's
very
true.
limited use cases for desktop notification. Yeah. It seems like, one more thing wants to send me notification.
Yeah, so your first thing is always I don't think so.
I think the only ones which I get are the ones which I accidentally clicked accept.
And then
I think we've all done that.
And as soon as I do that, then I go into the settings and figure out, why did I click accept on this? Delete.
No, I think I haven't done that.
No, but media sites are smart. So initially it used to be accept, reject. Now it's become block. Then now they've changed the language.
It's no thanks, allow.
No thanks, right? So, it's just kind of playing around with the words so that, as many people as possible would accidentally click on it. Because I just don't know. I don't know who clicks on that. But Chrome now lets you have a setting which just says, just block all. Don't show me any of these, which is great.
Yeah, actually, I don't mind the notification so much as I hate the notification, right? That you want the notification.
Yeah.
Because what happens over there is you can't access the website until you interact with that in some way.
Correct.
That's the one that annoys me, right? The actual notification I'm okay with.
It's too meta conversation. But coming back to Sellmojo, right?
Yeah.
So you started at a time when Facebook was not doing commerce yourself.
Correct.
But obviously commerce, or in any form transaction-based plays
is the golden goose.
Lucrative, right?
Absolutely.
And at any point, and I know the platform grew quite a bit, did any point Facebook try to cannibalize you or block you or stop you? What was the story there?
No, I think Facebook was very supportive about it. It's not that we had a very open conversation, but they knew we existed. And the way to do this was that, so we had an app, and the app had to kind of be approved by Facebook to kind of run. And the speed at which the approvals would come was great in the beginning. Right. So, so we had a great relationship. It's just that, over time, you need to kind of study where your ship is kind of navigating and figure out if the speed of approvals is changing, and then figure out the advantages / disadvantages of building on somebody else's platform. Right. At the end of the day, it's absolutely fair. It's their platform, so you choose to do what you want.
Live and die by their rules.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's happened on Twitter, right? Many people have built great services, and then Twitter's just come and chopped off their API access, and then it's dead. Right, your business is dead. And so while you grow, it's great, which happened to Periscope, which happened to Meerkat. Right. So they were growing faster than Periscope. Twitter cut them off, and now they don't exist.
There's a ton of things on Twitter, right? All the clients are dead.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
All of them are better ways to experience Twitter than Twitter is.
Then it is. Yeah. But I've had some great experiences with Sellmojo. So one of India's largest financial houses kind of got in touch with us proactively to say that we have a 5 million community of people sitting on our Facebook group, and we want to sell gold coins.
Wow, interesting.
And so I went, met them, and I was like, I just need you to realize that we haven't had anyone as of now using our platform to sell gold. And it works great for impulse purchases. It works great for, not really low ticket value, but, we're seeing up to $1,000, a couple of $1,000 people are still very okay with spending. And they were looking at doing 10, 20 and 50 gram coins. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, are you sure? They're like, yeah, well, we don't know, but I think it'll work. Let's do it. But they were a large company, which meant that their data needed to sit with them, SEBI norms. So we did all of that. We figured that out. We put it out there. You will not believe it. They sold gold like hotcakes.
What?
They sold gold like they sold gold. They took it to the bank. And I used to sit, with them, look at the dashboard, and I'm like, who are these people? Who are these people? I haven't seen these addresses, right? So it goes down to your name of house, whatever, lane, and then it says name of village or taluka, and I haven't seen this, right? And he's ordered a 20-gram gold coin.
On Facebook?
On Facebook. On Facebook.
Paying how?
Yeah,
on Facebook. He's made the
you're
payment.
You're paying online for somebody to
only,
send you
Did you
gold.
do COD also, or did you?
Not for gold. We did COD otherwise.
Right.
But for this, they wanted to make sure if they were going to send
do
gold.
COD for
No,
gold.
exactly. It's probably Robin.
Yeah, no kidding. You can't do COD
Which is
for
a very
gold.
interesting problem that I will talk about. But of course, for other things, there was COD.
No,
not
but
for
this
gold.
was online payments.
Yes.
In the year
2012.
12 for gold.
For gold.
On Facebook. Right?
Yeah. Within Facebook. And you wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it. And, until, of course, it happened. And I used to look at the Excel sheet, which had all the addresses where this had to go. And I was like, I've never heard of this pin code. I've never heard of this village. I haven't. And, of course,
So
that's
the
ignorance on my
middle
part.
of India was buying gold.
Yeah, it was. And it was ignorance on my part. But that's amazing. Which means, one, people have the money. And two, if you have a brand which has a certain amount of, brand recognition,
Trust,
people are ready to trust. People are ready to put that kind of money. And the question you asked me is the exact question I asked them. I'm like, how are you going to transport this, right? Because it's 20 grams of gold.
Yeah.
It has to leave your office from here or your godown from here. It needs to go across to a village where, maybe the only way of delivering is your postman.
Yeah.
Right? And how does that work? And that was the first time I learned about how they actually ship high ticket items like this. Right, so it's packed here in a very, very beautiful packing, is then put into a generic packing, is then marked in a very simple way. There is no invoice. So they have a special permission to not add an invoice to it. This is then shipped across. So the person who's bought it gets it. Who's delivering it, it looks like a normal package, but there is no invoice, which means there's no way to tell there's gold inside.
But if it's no invoice, he'll also wonder what's up.
No, he gets it.
Just a package.
He's bought it. And then immediately from post, your invoice follows.
Oh. Interesting.
Amazing, right?
Right.
And these guys had figured it out, and they were shipping gold coins by I wouldn't say by the dozen, but even more. And that's when I realized that India, as in the India that we know, is still, I believe, India, but there's like a large, I don't know how to put it, maybe Bharat, like real Bharat.
We actually use
the
colloquial
huge
term.
Yeah,
as Bharat.
absolutely. Which is just out there. Who, if you give them the opportunity to buy or even sell, which we figured later, they just ready to take it up.
Yeah, and that's exactly the sort of e-commerce story of the country, which...
Yep.
And I think that was the time when,
biggies talk about,
exactly.
right?
So Flipkart was just kind of, pumping in money, 2011, 12, they were just growing. Snapdeal had moved from deals to going full-fledged
on e-commerce,
right? And we had quite a few others, which were, Infibeam was a formidable player, I believe, back then. Still is right now, they're profitable.
Yeah.
So all of these guys were kind of pumping in money and it was working, right? So we had clients, of course. So we had a brand who was selling innerwear for men. Very, very, very focused only innerwear for men, would do ads only on the sports page of the newspaper. So when you were reading sports, you would see ads about, this particular brand. And you will not believe it, right? There were guys all living in India who would buy 6 to 8 innerwear.
Pairs of innerwear. Yeah.
Pairs of innerwear at 3 a.m. in the morning. And I'm just like, who are these guys? What is happening? Right? So, you leave for the day and there are a certain, number of orders for these guys. You help them kind of download it, send it off. It's still early days, right? Helping them, understand how this works. And then you come in the morning and there are like 50 orders. And these guys have placed an order at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. And, initially for the first couple of days, I was like, do you think somebody is placing fake orders, right? Because this is e-commerce, right? It's not a really big brand, but also it's within Facebook. Right, so I'm just trying to figure this out, but they were all genuine. There are men out there who are buying innerwear,
buying underwear in the night.
Underwear at 2 and 3 in the morning. That's amazing.
I don't.
Whole different discussion to get into.
There are a lot of different things that we can get into here, but I think we probably shouldn't.
But this is again another. I mean, between this and the gold on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the e-commerce opportunity and I would say the growth which the country has seen, right? And the Bharat which you talk about, which we often ignore or we think it's the same as all of us.
Absolutely,
it's not. That's what it really is about.
Correct. So we'll totally kind of come back to payments, but I still believe that right now everyone out there has managed to get everyone who was already transacting to possibly transact more, which
and
is
online.
Great, right? Yeah, more. Yeah. The opportunity to get people who have never transacted and get them to start transacting, that's going to be at least 5 times of what we have right now, and that is the real Bharat, right? So whoever is able to, so we have many players right now. Whoever manages to kind of do that, that'll be beautiful. Hopefully we can achieve WeChat numbers.
Yes. No, I mean that's the VC number on the wall for everyone,
the goal,
right?
Yeah.
That's the goal. But so how did Sellmojo get to where Aptus is today?
Absolutely. So we started doing Sellmojo, which was full-fledged e-commerce, and like I said, we were built on somebody else's platform, and we saw the signs on the wall, and we knew that we needed to do something about it. In a very polite way. So we decided to kind of transition from there, and I said it was still 2013, and I said, let's try and figure out what the next wave of devices will be, or rather where will people essentially shop.
Yeah.
And people were spending an incredible amount of time on Facebook, on Twitter was still early, but basically on their phones. Right, and we said, great, let's start off and let's figure out what is the simplest or low-hanging fruit to get started with. And we said there are websites which already sell stuff online. These are decently sized. They already have orders coming in from the web, but they have no presence on mobile whatsoever. Right. So we said, let's figure out if we can take a shot at this opportunity, but keeping in mind our vision, which was, let's try and make it in a way where there is absolutely no technical knowledge required, which meant essentially that, if somebody can use Facebook or WhatsApp, you should be able to do an extremely complex app, but without any knowledge.
Wow.
So that's where essentially we started from. We spent some time building a platform, and we did that because we wanted it to be in a way where the end merchant wouldn't have to essentially do anything. Right. So the first, so we of course worked with Shopify. I believe you've heard of them.
Yeah, of course. Who hasn't?
Great.
Yeah.
So very, very, very good company, has been around for I think almost a decade now, public listed. Have made the process of basically selling online extremely simple, right? So 4 clicks and you're there.
Yeah.
Very reliable backend. So there are quite a few big businesses running on Shopify. So we said, let's look at this as an ecosystem. Let's figure if there are, at that point of time, I think Shopify had about 150,000 merchants. They're at about 500,000 now.
Wow.
So if they have 150,000 merchants, let's see if any of them want to go mobile. Right, and this was still early 2013. Shopify was still concentrating on the web.
Right.
And so we got in touch with quite a few of them, and we said, what, if this is what we do for you, what will you need? How does it work? How much time can you give this? And it was great. We came back to the drawing board, and this is what we finally developed. We said a merchant will be able to manage only one system. Let's keep it to that. Mm-hmm. We would build a system which would go into that merchant's backend, pick up all the data, bring it to the app, display it, add everything, do notifications, absolutely everything. Wow. When the order goes through, we drop the order back in that original system. So this merchant now doesn't have to manage 2 different systems. He just manages his own, and yet he has a completely new channel for selling stuff.
Superb. And it's, again, the UI is customizable and stuff if you want.
Absolutely. So you can move stuff around. You want to add banners, you want to add pictures, you want to feature products, you want to do pretty much anything. You want to change colors, but all of this in a very simple drag and drop manner.
And I remember at the time, or even now, there were also other platforms like Magento and
absolutely,
stuff like that, which are more hosted, maybe self-hosted,
absolutely,
and much more power user.
Correct.
Yeah, Magento and stuff, you need a developer to work with you.
You do. So the basic difference between a Shopify and a Magento would be that a Magento is absolutely open in terms of you can pretty much configure and do anything on it. But that also means that, if I meet a merchant who's using Magento, which means he at least has a 3 to 4 people team who's running that.
Yeah, Shopify, I set up Shopify sites for friends, right? It's just like an hour and a half worth of kind of this.
And you're ready to
put
go.
some pictures together, and then even for the payment gateway, they have 2 or 3 payment gateways in India who you can work with. So it's a one-click kind of payment gateway setup.
Absolutely.
So the people who work on Shopify sites are completely non-technical.
Yeah, I was gonna say WordPress for e-commerce, but even WordPress is complicated.
So WordPress.com for e-commerce.
Yeah, WordPress.com.
So what WordPress was doing is they had a plugin, another company had a plugin called WooCommerce. WordPress has now bought them.
Yeah.
Correct.
So which is why WordPress now is easy to do.
How about Squarespace for e-commerce?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a better kind of this.
Yeah,
right?
that is. So Squarespace is, kind of...
it's a little less in terms of features,
very less
but at the
cluttered.
same time...
Correct. So they're saying we're targeting artists. We're looking at, people who care about design instead of people who care at maybe doing large numbers. Yeah. There are many platforms out there, right? So there are open source platforms. There are platforms which started off as proprietary platforms and then completely opened out.
Yeah. There was NOP Commerce, I think, was like that, right? I think that was one of those. It was a .NET Nuke thing, and then it became I made a lot of NOP Commerce sites also in my old business because it was the .NET e-commerce.
Okay.
Right? And there were some companies that had to work with .NET. They didn't want to work with...
So that was a de facto option.
That was the one for that.
Yeah, so we've had, for example, PrestaShop started off by saying we have a pricing, and then they said, here we are, open source. Just take it and run with it. If you want us to host it, it'll be $9 a month, right? So they went from a few thousand users to maybe a couple of 100,000 now, right? So it completely kind of depends on which way you want to go with that.
Interesting. Wow. So I think from your radio show days to cutting edge e-commerce apps on mobile, it was quite a journey. I think we'll take a quick break and come back and just go a little deeper into what this whole mobile e-commerce game is really about.
Hi, I'm Amit Verma, the host of the weekly podcast The Seen and the Unseen. In my show, I examine the seen effects and the unintended consequences of public policy and private action. I show how policies meant to help the poor often end up hurting the poor. I've done episodes so far on demonetization, GST, surgical strikes, immigration and MRP. And I will continue my forensic assault on the truth in the weeks to come.
Catch the show every Monday on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you prefer. Or visit seenunseen.in for all the latest updates.
All right, welcome back. Wow, I think we got into quite a bit of stuff about pivots in the break.
Absolutely.
And you have, your story so far has been full of them, including pivoting from a restaurant to a tech business to begin with.
So well, that sounds interesting. I'd like to believe that there was some sense of purpose through all of it, which is how it's supposed to be. But I believe that, over time it's just been about trying to find stuff that's interesting to do, right. Setting it up, going through the pains of setting it up, hopefully seeing the gains on it, and then figuring out, what else kind of works well or where the opportunity lies.
Right. And I think the big opportunity Aptus is on, of course, is the large Bharat e-commerce story, right? And
absolutely.
I would say dovetailed with the Bharat telco story also.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The whole telco data revolution that we're seeing, right?
You speak to anyone in, so you speak to Google, Facebook, you speak to any of the guys at any of the television channels, you speak to anyone who's doing original programming right now, and all of them will tell you the kind of graph they've seen once Jio has hit the market.
Oh, yeah.
Right? All of them. Everyone.
I've heard some numbers which I think which are sort of semi-public. Ghana is 3 times traffic.
Yeah. I think Satyen shared that.
Yeah, in the last year and a half, 3 times traffic. And that's insane. 3 times.
Exactly, right? So the things which people were doing sparingly, but they really loved, have suddenly the floodgates have opened. Like suddenly there's no threshold or there's no restriction on a monetary restriction purely,
right? Absolutely. Actually, the way I look at it is what happened is, so we're a great country because we've been evolving, right? So, so for example, everybody in the larger part of India who comes online today will not necessarily ever see a laptop. Their access to the internet is going to be their phone, which is beautiful, right? But everybody who already had the phone and had some form of data has moved from saying, I will pay 30 rupees for a chota recharge, which has only calling and no data, where if somebody gives me complimentary data, I don't even use it because I don't know what that is. Again, I'm talking about the larger part of the country, not, the 1 or 2% of us who live in the cities, to now saying that basically I pay 50 rupees per GB in which I can call. But those calling takes hardly anything, right? Which means now I have data, but essentially I don't know what to do with it. Which means I will now hopefully spend time on listening to music, watching movies. At some point, music labels in India would put music on MP3s and sell them online. I've seen those. Right? I hope you have.
Yeah, of course.
And I saw one the other day and I was like, who's going to buy this? Because now if I go to the lift, and my lift guy also has a phone where he's watching a movie. And he has, I asked him, how's he doing that? He's like, sir, Jio. Right? It's not like he's taken it from somebody else via Bluetooth, because that's what would happen, right? So they had like this network where all the new movies would go through each other, using Bluetooth. That doesn't happen anymore. These guys are watching this live.
There used to be an app that was really popular for transferring data between people to people, like phone.
Share it.
Yeah. It's still very popular.
Very popular. Very high on the App Store.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so I believe that's what's happened, and that's why I think it was extremely smart for Reliance to kind of exercise the option of buying Network 18.
Yeah.
Because now they own Viacom, they own Nickelodeon, they have Viacom 18 Pictures, the whole group. Book My Show is there. So all your colors, all those channels are there, all the movies are there. All of this content, you don't need to license now because you own it.
Yeah.
Right? Which means essentially it's your
all
own
part
content.
of the big plan.
It's all part, and that's amazing, because now the people who come online will never experience what we experienced, and we said that we have a dial-up connection which can only go so fast, or we have 200 MB per whatever, and that's all we can hit.
For them, it's like how you switch on the TV.
Yeah.
Right? The satellite TV, when it hit in India, right? Satellite TV, everyone got a dish and so on, right? Or cable even then.
Correct.
Like switching on the TV, you had access to it.
It was on.
And it was on. There was no buffering on television.
Correct.
It's sort of like that for them.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, I switch it on and it's there. There's no buffering or limited buffering, and it's just there. So I think one of the numbers also which YouTube saw the biggest gains, I think.
Yeah, of course.
Initially in the video days, right? So, and obviously the folks like a Hotstar who's showing cricket, like India's favorite sport, and so on. So everyone's hitting sort of their peak numbers. How is this? What's the spin on e-commerce now? Yeah, I know we spoke about the fact that given the opportunity, you've seen, right? Even when it was early days of Facebook, people were buying online.
Absolutely.
That was a function of them discovering things which they didn't have access to in their local area.
Absolutely,
right?
that's absolutely right.
There were no big stores which sell these things in my village. So this faraway company who I trust hopefully will, send those to me.
Yeah, but I think back then, trust wasn't also that big a factor, because of course we'd pioneered COD in the country, and I've had clients who are selling pencil boxes, right? And here around the area you have 4 stores, general stores, who will sell you pencil boxes, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But as you go deeper, I'm assuming that there aren't those many well-designed pencil boxes or pencil boxes with, proprietary characters like your Chota Bheem or whatever. And now, here's somebody who can click a button and get his kid a beautiful pencil box, and that, I believe, has completely opened, avenues for people.
100% agree. I think like inventory is like probably like this availability of massive amounts of inventory is one of the biggest drivers of e-commerce, right? I mean, like it just the possibility to buy anything you want, right? So I mean, like I don't know if I said this on this show particularly before, but I've always had a problem. I have really big feet. Okay. So I've always had a problem buying shoes. It's always been like a massive nightmare. I would have to tell my brother to buy 5 pairs of shoes and keep them with him. And as people come, send one pair at a time, because again, size 12.5 shoes. So you can't like ask somebody to bring 3 pairs of shoes for you.
Correct.
So one at a time. But now Amazon, I get my size. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, I can buy shoes. So, I mean, like, I'm buying a pair every month. And I feel like, that's something
Why are you buying a pair?
Because for the first time in 42 years, I can buy shoes.
Yeah, he can.
Yeah, I have not been able to buy shoes my entire life. It's always been like, okay, whatever I get, I'll get. And I mean, like, just deal with it. Now I can actually choose. Hey, you know what? I want a green pair of shoes. All right, let me get a green pair of shoes.
Wow.
I want a black pair of shoes. Let me get a black pair.
Your
I can
world
actually
has
choose.
Changed,
yeah, it's been massively
But that's
different.
true, right? It literally has.
It has. But I think, I mean, like, I think that is a very trivial example in my own case. But I think for a lot of other people, the things are not available in. You remember when Revant was here, we were talking about the yogurt thing, right? Epicamia.
Yes.
Where again, we were talking about how it's not available easily, right? I mean, like, I think that becomes an issue which kind of ties into this, right? You don't find, you don't find anything but the absolute most massively well distributed stuff, right? Things which have even a little bit of distribution problem, you're not going to get them in like probably 90% of the places that you want them to.
But that's essentially been the stronghold of all your conglomerates, right? Whether it's HUL or PNG. Their strong point has been the fact that distribution is amazing. Yep. So you go to a small kirana store in the middle of nowhere and he will have your shampoo sachets, right?
Ben Thompson's aggregation theory.
Absolutely. He's figured it out, right? Yeah. Which means that when they launch a new product, it's going to have the widest distribution.
Yeah.
So there is that sense of that power of default, right? Which is what is going to happen in India when we see, or rather which is happening right now when we see new, for example, payment platforms launching, right? So you've had Paytm for the longest time. You've had multiple other platforms here, right? So Amazon is launching, which is great. Amazon has Amazon Pay, which lets you pay. Now they're taking Amazon Pay out of Amazon and onto other websites. So if you're on Bewakoof or you're on,
on Fasos for that matter.
On Fasos, right? You can choose to pay with Amazon, right? The beautiful part about that is there are so many people who already use Amazon that they will have this unfair advantage, but it's not technically unfair because they're their own customers.
Yeah, well, they're giving a lot of discounts to load up your wallets right now.
75 rupees per transaction.
Yeah, I know. So.
No, but insane. the point I'm trying to make is, so we all know that WhatsApp is working on, a way to pay.
Yeah.
Now, even though there is Google Pays and there is Phone Pay and there is all the
other UPI
all the
platforms,
others, right? WhatsApp is used by, I don't have the official numbers, but I'm assuming about 80% of the country.
I would think so.
Which means that the only new thing they will have to do is in the options where they currently click to either send a message, send a photo, send a location. There will be a button which says money. They click and they're done. Yeah. Which means that, by default, WhatsApp will have a great adoption for something like this, which is why it makes sense for Mark to acquire them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it does.
Right.
I wonder, though, I mean, as much as I agree and as much as I've kind of pushed WhatsApp needs to be doing a lot more stuff in this, I wonder how they will deal with KYC rules and stuff like that. Because, I mean, that's just a massive undertaking that they're going to have to undertake, right?
So, ideally, what they will do is they will not get into any of it. Now, I don't know how they're building this. What they will do is they will just link to your UPI.
Okay.
Yeah. They will just link to UPI, which means that you choose... so just like, for example, Google Pay says that either so Google Pay sets up a new VPA for you. They will ideally do that. So they will either set up a new VPA for you, but it's anyways linked to your bank.
Right.
So that you don't need to do new set of KYC norms.
Okay.
You just use UPI, click on it, it goes through. It'll maybe be a pop-up where you enter your PIN for your UPI and you're good to go, right? So, I've heard you guys discussing Bheem and NPCI on the show. And that's one of the things that I've been observing, that the fact that the platform exists, UPI as a platform exists, it's so easy for any of the large players to launch their own set of payments.
On top of it,
yeah, own, right? We've seen so many, right? So Truecaller's launched Truecaller Pay.
Yes.
Right. Now, whether, how they plan to fit this into their overall strategy of, trying to be an identity layer, I believe that, they'll figure it out. But it's so easy for them to do because they just need to speak to ICICI, integrate UPI, and they're done.
Yeah.
So I think the next battle will be payments.
Right.
With what we're doing right now is enabling merchants all over the country to come here and prepare themselves to be, to have their products accessible to this huge deluge of people who are coming online to shop.
Or who are mobile first, essentially.
Who are mobile first. So, the fun part is just before demonetization hit, we were actually trying to understand, how people who use WhatsApp for transactions, how do they function? right? What is the idea? And so we had a cloth trader from Ludhiana, and his business model was that he would have saris, dress materials, whatever, on WhatsApp. He would basically take pictures and he would send you 10 pictures. He would do this to every woman who was his prospective client. Those women would then see what those photos were, whatever they liked. They would click on that and say, this is what I want to buy. He would then send them bank account details. They would then send him the money via NEFT and he would send them the product.
Right.
He was sitting in Ludhiana. He used to do great business.
How was his acquisition of these customers in the first place?
Most of these were people who were in his locality, who were existing clients who would then refer his services to others.
Right. So he's expanding on his existing
very organically, right? So we helped him set this up. We helped him set up an app with us. We helped him migrate his products onto this. And I was there when, I was on the phone with him when he was like, so I'm sending this to all my clients now. Instead of sending photos, I'm sending them link and I'm saying download.
Yeah.
It is my app. And I'm like, great, right? So he sent it out. So that guy is somebody I always speak about whenever I talk to someone. He had about 5,000 downloads, right? If you actually think about it, that's not an impressive number at all, right? So when you think about the millions that other brands have, he's just about 4,500, 5,000 brands. But what I've seen with his is that, he really understood how to leverage this. So every morning, right? So we onboarded him, set him up, and then he was running. And my team flagged his account saying, sir, this account is sending a lot of push notifications. So we just need to make sure that, it's all legit.
Right.
So I downloaded his app onto my phone. I kept it there. Every morning, he would send a thought for the day in Hindi as a push notification.
He just replaced WhatsApp with...
Yeah, right. So he did that. And so every morning you would have a thought for the day. Beautiful, right? In Hindi. We were supporting... Hindi notifications thanks to Clever Tap. Yeah. So we did that, and I was following that, and then around post lunch he would have another either thought or observation or something funny or a joke again going out, right? And we could see the kind of numbers that he had, and my initial thought was that people are going to be uninstalling this app if he's sending 2 to 3 notifications a day. Right, these are not a week, a day, and every day, clockwork. 10 o'clock in the morning, you would get a good morning, and then some Hindi thing below that, and then you would get something in the afternoon. But the beautiful part was he figured out how to leverage this, right? So on most days in the afternoon, you would get some joke or something like that. Whenever he had a new product, he would put a picture of the product, deep link it, right? We taught him how to deep link, so he would deep link it, and he would write available 2,500.
Wow.
Okay. And so the first time I saw it, I almost didn't believe it because that notification came onto my phone. I clicked on it. I went, it opened up within the app. It opened a Salwar suit, which was for $2,500. And quantity said 200, right? I logged in the evening. I went to the same product. He was sold out.
Whoa.
He sold 200 units. He sold 200 units of $2,500 in 3 hours.
See? It's captive audience.
Absolutely, right? So I was trying to discuss this with my team. I'm like, see this, it doesn't matter that he doesn't have 1 million downloads.
Yeah.
He has 4,000 people who care about him enough to keep that app on the phone. And when he sends something, they care enough to click on that notification. He's creating a habit.
Yeah.
Right? He's creating that where people look forward to what is going to come and then they click on it. And of course, a byproduct of that is that he's making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right.
But this is real content marketing, isn't it?
Yeah, and
he's
it's very
content.
focused content. It's not just content marketing.
And he's figured it out.
Content to commerce.
Yeah, it's content to commerce, but this guy,
it's sitting right there, right? So just before, I was actually telling you, just before demonetization hit, so we were talking to clients like this, right? And we were trying to figure out how they work. And we had a lot of clients who wanted the app and yet wanted to kind of sell within WhatsApp, right? And then these were also guys, like I told you, whose clients would be in a geographical area, right? So they would most probably meet them over the weekend because they would be like, "Madam, ye sab naya hai," whatever it is, right? So we developed this simple app, which was an app-based POS.
Oh,
right. So while all his products were sitting in our system, the POS kind of displayed them to him, saying, "This product, so many units are left. This product, so many units are left. This product, so many units are left." There was a plus minus. He could add whatever he wanted.
Right.
Next page was the cart, right? At the bottom of the cart, we put a small bar where he could enter the person's phone number. Once he did that and hit enter, that person would get an SMS on their phone with a link to pay.
Okay.
Superb.
Right, so this was ready just before demonetization hit.
Right.
So a few merchants were using it. Once it hit, that was crazy.
I would think
because
so.
now all of these clients, or the prospective clients, didn't need to kind of go through a setup process, do all of that. They had an app where they could see everything. Click, the person in front of you gets a link, and you make a payment.
Superb.
No,
I
yes.
mean, and that's been everyone was trying to do that. Right?
Yeah,
It's always a challenge, right? How do you send a payment notification and get engagement on that payment notification, right? I mean, like, how do you send a single link which lets people get to the point where they can just go and pay you at that point?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like that.
And this is all in the big India.
Yes.
People paying probably mostly through what? Net banking and debit cards?
Majority net banking. A huge amount of debit cards, decent amount of credit cards, but not as much.
No, exactly.
Also,
right?
you should know that SBI controls a huge amount of stake there, as in a huge percentage of the transactions that
I
go
would
through.
think so.
I can
Almost 40%.
I can imagine. Yeah, because that's the one bank
the
which
big
has gone
bank,
all the way in.
Yeah,
No, that's the big bank, right? I mean, that is the big bank of India. So, yeah, I can see
And
that.
all of this, again, when all of this over those native apps or those apps which you built them.
Absolutely.
And these are apps which are for a single business.
Yep.
Correct.
It's not that it's an Amazon or a Flipkart
No,
who
it's
is
not a
like-
marketplace,
It's
you're
not
right.
a marketplace.
You're right.
And at a time when even today a lot of people are very space conscious on their phones.
Absolutely. We've seen that.
Right? So
Yeah,
people
yeah,
don't
we've
like
seen that.
apps, too many apps which if you're not using it, you'll delete it.
Correct. See, this was in a time when a phone would have 8 GB
Exactly.
as their total space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So, of course,
So
that was a
this
constraint.
This is a very strong signal, as
Right.
they say, right? It's highly engaged audience, dedicated app.
Do you think that it works better when you're talking about something in a local kind of area? Like, I mean, like...
I was going to ask that.
Sorry.
Yeah, like, how does it expand to the rest of the marketplace story in what we hear about, right?
Correct.
Between dedicated, hyper-local,
Correct.
engaged audience versus the marketplace which is going after the millions.
Yeah. So, like, when I would think of this, like, if I would think of what single store app I would install on my phone, right? I'm thinking it would be someone local.
Yeah.
I don't think that I would install...
That is a use case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So your local natural ice cream, you need to order. Now stop talking to him, click a button, and he comes and drops it.
Yeah.
Which was a use case that we did explore, right? Having said that, when our clients, or rather when prospective clients would come to us, right, saying I need to make an app, I would sit and try to understand what they're selling. And I would be very honest and upfront with them. The difference is, nobody opens... Or rather, on the web, you basically have a browser which has a gazillion windows open, and you can keep opening stuff in every possible window. Nobody does that on the App Store. Nobody goes to the App Store and say, let me look at what is available today and download something.
Yeah.
Right? Which means that ideally, if you're trying to acquire new users via the App Store, that's going to be one, very tough. And two, you're not sure that these guys will actually stick.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you have existing users on your web, or who have, let's say, transacting with you, if you push them to mobile, there are many things you can do, right? So you know what they're browsing, how long they're spending, you know which products they're liking. You can send them highly, highly targeted and relevant notifications or offers, all of that. You can do loyalty, you can do upsells. But for an existing audience, it's a brilliant channel for revenue, let's upsells, as well as generating more revenue. If you're looking at this as a new acquisition channel, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough if you want to kind of,
because
do
you're
that.
spending same kind of acquisition costs that Amazon is spending, right?
Yeah, which is
that's kind of tough to
fighting
do.
against
Yeah,
them.
it's tough to do.
Which is tough to do. But otherwise, if you're doing this, it works really well because someone knows you and hence decides to keep your app here. And, you have some great platforms which let you understand how long is this guy spending, what is he clicking on, which means ideally, what we were able to offer was personalization, mass personalization, right? Absolutely at scale, but yet for an individual.
Right.
So, for example, if you clicked on flip-flops, then if there was an offer on flip-flops, and even if it was not a discount,
right,
but you had a new product, I would send it to you because you were interested in flip-flops. If I send a flip-flops offer to everyone, that makes no sense because it's just going to piss off everybody else who doesn't, care about these. So there's been some great learnings. We did that. Post-Demon, we kind of made a simple app, translated that into 11 Indian languages. Okay. And we said, here you go, download this app, choose a language, right? So we had everything from Malayalam to Punjabi to Bengali. Second page, enter your name, your business name, basic information. Third page, you have a button, click on that, it opens a camera, click a picture of your product, add name, price, inventory, enter, and you're done.
Nice.
Your product is up, you have a gateway that we'll give you in a day, you can start selling. Because this is something that we come back to with the larger part of India, because it was in local languages, we saw a huge amount of people downloading it and setting it up to kind of go to the next step where it was in a language that was comfortable.
Yeah.
And what we did was we also built this in the other way. So for example, we had about 9 languages, 11 Indian languages and 17 international languages, which meant if you're a merchant here and you have made it in English because you understand English, but your customer downloads the app, and if he understands, if the basic language on his phone is, for example, Malayalam, all the menu buttons, everything would automatically change in Malayalam.
Nice. And you were doing the translation.
We were doing that, right? And that was amazing because then this guy had to essentially do it in English.
Yeah,
and it would be available to anyone, which worked well even abroad, right?
Yeah,
because
I can imagine,
somebody opening in Japanese would be able to see and read in Japanese.
Yeah.
So like I was telling you, we had clients in the UAE who were selling lingerie on the app. Great pictures, did a lot of A/B testing for him to figure out what pictures worked. So would a picture of the product and then a picture of the model work, or would a picture of the model and then a picture of the product work?
Wow. Does that really matter?
It does.
Wow.
One has
sure
a much it does. One has a much higher conversion rate just because it's very contextual based on, I'm assuming, the kind of geography you come from.
Right.
And that merchant just set us up. He was with Shopify, so was using their backend, would do about $15,000 to $20,000 a month on our platform without changing anything. His clients would just download, place an order, and he would fulfill them, single guy. And that kind of really changed his life, because he was doing $20,000 without doing anything, and he paid us $49 for it.
Wow. Do you think you should reprice?
So that's a conversation we've been having for the longest time, that should we kind of look at pricing this, but I thought, it just made sense because
this is a one-time price?
No, it's a monthly price.
It's
a SaaS product, right? So you have $29, $49, $99. We were toying with the idea of, if we want to kind of raise $99, or we want to go so low that, essentially everybody has access to it. You use all the features, and then for certain premium things you kind of, pay. Otherwise you pretty much use the platform. And one very interesting challenge we faced when we were doing this was that we would have so many customers and we were building apps, which meant we had to build apps.
Oh, okay. It wasn't automated.
Yeah, fully. As in you would have to build an app.
You have to craft it, You have to craft it a little bit.
You would have to craft an app, and we realized that, that would require people and time. So we ended up building a completely automated solution where from the time that you actually pressed build to the time that it got uploaded,
it was got itself made.
Yeah, absolutely no touch, which was quite nice. So we actually right now can make an iOS app in about 12 minutes.
Wow.
And an Android app in about 6. Which is not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
So we can really scale on that.
And not just that, and we were talking earlier about how generally the trend is now back to sort of progressive web apps.
Absolutely.
Which are much more becoming more and more powerful than their pre-existing versions.
Which is much more logical, right? You don't need to essentially go and download an app to have it on your phone.
So it will become even easier for you to just flick a switch and
absolutely. So
spit out a PWA.
Absolutely, it's something that we've been exploring. So while we were doing apps, we also had a lot of clients who said, I don't have an e-commerce system itself.
Yeah.
So we went ahead and built our own. So you essentially now have our system where you put your products. From there, you sell on the web, you sell on mobile, you sell in person using a POS, and we really wanted to crack selling on marketplaces. I believe we'll get there. But essentially, for any merchant across India, he needs to just put his product in one system, and from there he can sell on web, mobile, and retail, running out of a single system.
That's amazing. So I think you're really... I think to take your own example, right? In the gold rush, you're selling the axe in the story of Indian e-commerce.
Yeah, I hope so, because a large part of the country still has to come online, right? And the opportunity is great. So these guys will get here, and I hope that we can empower more people to do that, because at least with over 60% of our merchants, we've seen that the kind of literal change their life takes when this kind of revenue comes in is a great place to be.
Yeah, the effort versus return is obviously so different from the physical world, right?
It is. And these people may not have access to geography, as in they might not be here, but they are extremely smart, right? They just need a little nudge because they may not have interacted with software before. But if you give that to them in their language and a little bit of help, they're amazing. And that is the India that is still not online.
Yeah, true.
Wow. So I think there's a lot to solve for, and you're already well onto your way to impact it.
Hope so.
So, wow, I think that's all we have time for today.
Yeah, it's been a good
I think this is
conversation.
going to be very interesting to even follow through on our Slack channel and on Twitter. Thanks, Nameet, for doing this. And of course, you can catch Nameet on Twitter and on @Nameet.
@Nameet, Nameet.
That's right. And of course, we're on Twitter as well.
We're on Twitter as well, but I think the best way to interact with us is on the Slack channel. Please go to the website, ivmpodcast.com/Shunya1. Over there, you'll see a button that will allow you to request an invitation, and we'll send you one. And please join the channel and join the conversation.
Yeah, and I think
also iTunes reviews. Please go to iTunes and give us reviews over there. 5-star review is much appreciated, and
of course, download IVM Podcast app as well.
Please, of course,
you should.
download
I have the app, and it's amazing.
Thank you.
You should get it.
Yes, and
please do.
And if you want your own app made, you know who to talk to.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh wow! Look at us all plugging each other, man.
All right. Thanks so much, Nameet. Thanks for doing this.
It was a pleasure to be here. Thanks for
taking
the time.
It was amazing. Let's continue the conversation on Slack.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain speaking. Sorry to say, but there's been a slight delay due to the apocalypse having suddenly begun. As you can see, there's death, destruction, and chaos taking place all around us. But don't you worry, food and drinks will be served shortly, and I would recommend checking out
IVM Podcasts
to get some of your favorite Indian podcasts. We'll keep you going till this whole thing blows over. Thank you.